I would like to start off with one question to, I guess, every panel member. As I saw, one of the core questions and issues that were raised that directly concern the relationship between open source and land, our attitude towards land, is the notion of participation. It was clear that one of the driving forces behind open source technology is the feeling of participation that the joint workers feel. And obviously a kind of a perhaps more healthy way of looking at nature presupposes that you participate in one way or another with the land or with nature. So the question I would like to pose to the speakers is just how you create that kind of participation in 21st century world where a very, very big part of the population lives in urban settings, in cities, in big cities, and their contact with nature is, for many of them, restricted to a couple of trees in a park and stuff like that. And how do you create the feeling of participation and responsibility towards the land in modern society? If someone in the panel could say what they think about that issue.
Well, I guess I can start since I have the mic. Just a week ago, I was in an event in Amsterdam and I was meeting with Ivan Henriquez, who comes from Brazil. And he had recently started doing a study program in the Netherlands on art and science with a focus on ecology. And he said that even his teachers, when he tries to describe his engagement with ecological processes, is kind of like, so what do you want to do? Do you want us to go back to, old nature? And our discussion was that in Netherlands, for example, and also like in the United Kingdom, all nature is sort of manipulated and already reworked. So the relationship that many of our friends from these countries is very different compared with like Evans, who often is working also within the rainforest, or myself often in very working in north of Lapland or Archipelago. So the contact and experience of nature is a very important way of learning and understanding. And I think here is where the arts can come in also, in providing different sorts of experiences that reflect and open up these opportunities. And even better is that when the participants are making things or planting things and really become involved. So I think this might be.
I can carry that on a little bit. Like the example I gave at the beginning of my talk of this herbologies and foraging networks, I guess it tries very, very much to give some experience to participants in the cultural field who are attending arts festivals, to take part in workshops where they learn about traditional ways of, let's say, processing plants or herbs, things which are part of actually intangible cultural heritage, things where maybe your grandmother used to do it, maybe there's still some person in the countryside still doing it, but it's not so common knowledge for those of us who are now living in the city. It takes some effort and resources and organizing to try to make a space to connect with those people, to maybe do field work or some sort of pseudo-ethnographic study as cultural work, to go and meet those people, to find those who are willing to do workshops which are either paid or or volunteer workshops, which help to reintroduce some of the things that we no longer have a regular contact with, because we no longer live in the countryside, the majority of us. So, as a cultural producer in the roles of arts, then trying to redirect arts funding towards those type of topics, which are related to land, or are related to farming, or related to ecologically minded practices, is something that we can consider, and certainly try to find ways to support. And getting involved and doing something, even just for an afternoon in the city, might set up a relationship and a desire to continue to learn these things at another time, maybe better time of the year, certainly, maybe not in February, but in the summertime. And for me, in this program in Helsinki, it's in two parts. First part is in the city in Helsinki, and there are workshops which involve, let's say, fermenting plants or making tinctures with alcoholic spirit. But the knowledge where that came from was from the countryside, and it's necessary to follow it up with an opportunity to maybe go and spend 3 or 4 days in the countryside and learn also in that context too. And that's a sort of hybrid cultural production practice that I personally think is necessary to engage with that topic, and to make space for other people to do so also.
I don't think I have a good answer to your question. And maybe I'm not very optimistic either, because I see that what is happening right now is the opposite. We have still urbanization all over the world, and there are less and less people that is in a real contact with